If my demands are not met, I shall have no recourse but to blow up the moon. You have 12 days. Oh, well, hi there. I was just looking at my favorite website, BoardGameGeek.com, thinking about one of the most underutilized features on there that I want to talk about for a few minutes. Hey everyone, Chris here from the Dice Tower, and I wanted to talk about what I consider to be Board Game Geek's most underutilized feature. There's a lot that is great about this website. It's something that I use daily at this job. There's more useful information here than there is even on publishers' websites, pictures of the games, of the box covers, the designer information, links back to see what the other work that the designers, the illustrators, the publishers have done. All of the FAQ and the rules compilations are usually there. There's a lot that I use this website for. But if you pull up a Board Game Geek page, if you want to follow along with me, you can go to www.boardgamegame.com/BOARDGAME/3975. So here we are looking at Dune Imperium Uprising's page. You see a lot of information here at the top. As I mentioned, hey, it's ranking and it's strategy ranking, the weight of the game, which weight has its own whole discussion that I think that Ashton over at Shelfside Games did a fantastic video talking about the implications and why the voting for weight doesn't really work, some of the Dunning-Kruger and shortcoming side effects of voting for that. But right next to it, no, not age, that's also fairly useless. Not next to that, playtime, that's also fairly useless. But right here, player count recommendations. And if you click on the community vote, this is what I'm talking about here. When you click on this, it pulls up this little side menu talking about the recommended, best, and not recommended player counts as voted by Board Game Geek users. Let's talk a little bit about this. I think the information they show here is just the right amount of information. Best, do you recommend it? Do you not recommend it? And of course the number of voters as well, which I appreciate because you can take this with a grain or two of salt depending on the number of votes. Because I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about statistical sample size ratio. You thought you were here to talk about board games. I'm here to talk about math. At 109 votes, you can see that Dune Imperium Uprising is recommended for any player count besides 5, because if you're playing the bigger variant already, you might as well play the 6. I don't even know if there is a way to play it with 5. And you occasionally get the troll vote, one person saying it's best at 5 players. I doubt that. But you'll see here that it says, hey, best at 4 players, but recommended at all of the others, including solo. That's some nice information. But if we go over to the regular Dune Imperium page and click on the community voting, you'll see here that the vote has shaken out just a little bit differently, where it's recommended at all of the player counts, but it says best at 3 and at 4. And they're highlighting that because 3 and 4 are so close to each other in terms of the votes, that really those are kind of the two best player counts as we can tell from the user voting. There's over 1,200 votes at the time of this recording for the original Dune Imperium, and so what that means is that there's a better statistical representation based on this number of votes. Let's go to the math. After a very intense 3 seconds of Google searching, I stumbled upon St. Olaf College, and while I did not realize that sainthood was going to be granted towards snowmen, I appreciate the effort to have wider representation in higher education. Per Olaf, 1, grown-ups know everything, and 2, there's a few different important factors to consider when talking about sample size ratio, or the term meaning, how many people do you have to ask a question before that's a good representation of the wider population. You can't ask 100% of the population out there, do you like Taylor Swift? Or is chicken fried chicken one of the weirdest named recipes in existence? But if you ask 5 people, you might stumble upon, 5 people who hate Taylor Swift because they're San Francisco 49ers fans. Or you might find people who have never heard of chicken fried chicken, which I don't give them any grief. That's such a stupid name. What an idiotic name for a dish. It's called chicken fried chicken. Is it because there's chicken fried steak? You want to also have chicken fried chicken? It's just chicken. St. Olaf's website has some important information here to consider. What's your acceptable margin of error? How important is it that you are crucially correct? How heterogeneous or homogeneous is your population going to be? Are there strong differences of opinion or just, fairly similar? But I want to key in on this paragraph sample ratio. For larger populations, such as a population of 10,000, a comparatively small minimum ratio of 10% or 1,000 individuals is required to ensure representativeness of the sample. All of that to say, there are more than 10,000 of us board gamers out in the world, and there's more than 10,000 users of Board Game Geek. So therefore, when you look for how representative is this vote going to be of the general board gaming populace, the closer you are to 1,000 or higher, the more likely it is to be representative. Yes, there's going to be outliers. Yes, you'll disagree with what a lot of other people say, but it's more likely that that's going to be closer to correct. At just 1,000 voters, you could have a very representative sample. The few people that have actually clicked in on that. Now, there's going to be a few issues where self-sampling is going to be a little bit more biased. Preferably, in a statistical sample, you would have a very true random polling of people to get a better representation. And so Board Game Geek is going to be self-selected, where people really feel strongly about something, and they're going to be the ones to go in there and click in and say, I hated this at 4 players, I hated this at 2 players. So you're going to have some little biases there, but with over 1,000 votes, I would feel pretty good about this. So coming back here to the pages, you see that Dune Imperium with 1,236 votes, that's going to be pretty representative. If another 3,000 people came in and voted, it would be pretty unlikely in a true neutrally random scenario that these numbers are going to change a lot. Now, if you campaigned for all of the solo gamers in the world to come in and vote best for one player, that's going to mess up the true neutrality and the representation of these polls. So I think that is important, that it's not just people who feel passionately one way or another, but generally if you're just kind of a user of Board Game Geek, you should go on there and you should vote. When you look at an established game like Brass Birmingham here, you see that with just over 1,000 votes, you're probably going to get a good idea that, hey, the 2-player game here is recommended, but it might not be the best experience with Brass. That I could agree with. I love 2-player Brass Birmingham. I would wholeheartedly recommend it, but you have some dynamics that are neat with 3 and 4 players that maybe aren't there with 2. But if you are looking for this game solely for 2 players, you can look at this very high recommendation percentage and say, yeah, I'm probably going to be able to enjoy it if I like this type of economic card-driven game. Here on the Sushi Go page, you'll see that the community says this is really a 3 to 5 player game best at 4. When you click on the votes, there's only 449 votes, which is, halfway towards that representative sample, and that's not bad. But I think that you'll definitely see that there is kind of this pull towards the middle player count of 4. That's kind of the best rated one. But you'll definitely see, hey, 14% of voters said that that you can play this with more than 5 people, more than the actual, rules try to tell you that you can, because they believe in anarchy, sushi-related anarchy, and I'm here for it. So yeah, you could play this with more. You'll definitely see a lot of ones. Board Game Geek almost always has something here that says the actual, like, one more than the actual player count or more, and a lot of times you'll see not recommends on that. And you do see that here. That's primarily the case. When you come over here to Spellbook, which is also a new Phil Walker Harding game, one that I enjoy quite a bit, you'll see it says, hey, community, 1 to 4 players best at 2, with 21 votes. This is the type of thing that I think more of us should be jumping into and voting on, because really, right now, this is pretty much useless information. This is recommended or best at almost any player count, truly, and so that could all change. 21 votes is not going to be a good enough representation. Is 449 good enough? Kind of, sort of, right? Because how many people are really going to have strong, drastic feelings one way or the other about Sushi Go? But there are plenty of games, especially some of the more recent ones that have come out within the last year or just around the last year or so, that could definitely use more votes. I think that this is the most useful bit of information that you're going to see at the top of the page here. Time, age range, ages, atrociously wrong. And so I think that there's more voting that you could use in here, and that's going to, generally speaking, be more accepted widely by people. You'll disagree with some, but not as much as people tend to disagree with the weight of a game or with the age recommendations. So if all of us went out and just voted for a few of our favorite games that we have experience with the breadth of the player count, I think that we would have a more viable resource on our hands. I think it's already pretty darn good, but it could be better. And if we went and we voted for some of those things, we could make it more useful for all gamers out there. And that is what I believe in. So anyway, thanks for coming out here, listening to me yammer on about statistics for quite a while here. Folks, thanks for coming out to the Dice Tower. If you want to see more great videos, go ahead and check out the other stuff that we do, reviews, top 10s, etc. If you want to subscribe, I'm not going to stop you. I won't. I'm serious. Do it. Take care, everyone.